Hey guys, this is Baby Doll Soaps and Things back with some more doll ranting. And next I'm going to tell you a chilling story about dolls. This story stuck out like a sore thumb to me in 2011. All from Russia. Coming out of Russia. Coming out of a province called Nizhny Novgorod? I'm not good with Russian. My mom speaks Russian. Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. And it's all about a sadistic ass man by the name of Anatomy Moskvin. Anatomy Moskvin was a man in Russia that had life-size dolls living with him. But these weren't your average dolls. These weren't your average Russian dolls that your babushka made. These dolls were very sinister and creepy. And, well, let me go to the story and tell you. Let's go back to the 1970s on the streets of Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, in the late 70s. Anatoly Moskvin was then 13 and was walking home from school when a group of men in black suits stopped him. Why would they accost this boy? For what reason? Anatoly was walking home from school. Why is he being stopped? Apparently, these men in black suits were carrying a coffin, and they were en route to the funeral. It was of an 11-year-old girl who tragically died. How unfortunate. Personally, I'm not into the morbid shit. Coffins, dead bodies. That never sat well with me as a kid. Doesn't sit well with me now. Well, I guess these men wanted Anatoly to assist them with carrying the young girl's body to the graveyard or to the funeral. Which was kind of weird. Why would you stop a strange person or a kid, by that matter, to do that? Did he have any relations to the girl? Did he know this girl? Nope. But this story gets a lot creepier. A life that saw him desecrate about 150 graves. This is what he did. Alexei, this was his turning point, and this wasn't a good turning point. He ended up desecrating over 150 graves, exhuming, mummifying, and dressing up the bodies of 29 dead girls to look like dolls, including a 12-year-old girl he failed to adopt from an orphanage. Wow, this is sick. Anatoly was actually a Russian historian. He was nicknamed the Lord of the Mummies, and one of the world's most bizarre and complicated cases ever. This guy was sick shit. Wow. When I first heard of this story back in 2011, I thought he killed women or killed young girls and mummified them. That was my impression. But this necrophile would literally go to the grave and dig up fresh corpses of young women, young little girls, and take them home and would mummify them. And the funny thing is, this guy lived with his parents, and his parents weren't aware of this shit he was doing. Like, you can report him to the police. I know he mummified them, so it wasn't like they had a smell or anything. But the fact of the matter is that something was very odd about these dolls, and I think there were pictures of these dolls, and these didn't look like your average dolls. These dolls looked off. For somebody who's been collecting dolls for a while, I wouldn't want dolls like these. Were life-size dolls he had. But he was a very intelligent person. He spoke over 13 languages. He traveled worldwide. He was a self-proclaimed expert on cemeteries, which to me is sick. Very disturbing. He had an obsession with cemeteries, with the dark arts, with the occult, black magic, that kind of stuff. This guy was beyond deranged. He looks nuts. This would be a good story. Somebody needs to make a movie about this, write a book about it. This guy's creepy as shit. He even spent one night sleeping in a coffin ahead of a deceased person's funeral. Wow. And what he would also do too, he would insert buttons into the eye sockets of the corpses so they could watch cartoons with him. Sick bastard. Anatoly Yuryevich Moskvin, I think it's Moskvin. He's now 57. He was a Russian linguist, historian, and journalist. who taught at the college level in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod. As a schoolboy in the ancient city of Gorky, I guess Gorky Park, that area in Soviet, which is now Soviet Russia, Moskvin loved wandering through cemeteries with his friends, especially in the Krasnaya Etna Cemetery in Leninsky. At 13 years in 1979, and so this guy is my mother's age. This is an article maybe 2 years old, from last year. So he's 57 going on 58, so he'll be 59 this year, and that'll be the age of my mom next month. At 13 years in 1979, Moskvin was returning home from school one day and walked into a group of men at the funeral procession of Natasha Petrova, an 11-year-old girl who had died. Moskvin recounts his horror experience as the men dragged him to her coffin, bent him down, and forced him to kiss her corpse. What the hell kind of sick-ass men are these that you would do that to a child? I wonder why this guy is fuck back shit crazy. You do something like that. I remember years ago my manager told me something like that happened to a close friend of hers. She had a friend that was scared of funerals, scared of coffins. When she was a little girl, and I think when she was in the room to view the body, somebody locked her into that door where she was stuck with that corpse. I said, that is fucked up. Why would you do that to somebody? That would traumatize a child, and she was banging, screaming to be let out because she's stuck in there with a corpse lying in a casket. That's creepy. That would scare the shit out of me. That would scare the shit out of me as a grown woman. Anyway, let me go down to reading that. That moment would define the course of Moskvin's life 30 years later, as he became obsessed with the macabre and published in 2011, I Kissed Her Once and Again. So he's a necrophile, as I stated, necrophile. After the incident, Natasha's grieving mother put a wedding ring on Moskvin's finger and another wedding ring on Natasha's finger, bonding them in marriage. What the fuck? So the mother of this 11-year-old girl is insane too. What the fuck? What am I reading here? Oh my god. Anatoly Moskvin later grew up, graduating with a degree in philology from Moscow State University. Excuse me, not Moscow. That's how they say it, Moscow State University. But that marriage, as strange as it was, saw Anatoly Moskvin become an adult with a highly seclusive lifestyle. So he lived by himself. So in his mind, he didn't have a relationship, he never had children, he never had sex, he didn't have a life, because he believed he was married to Natasha from the time she was 11 and dead, and he was 13 and alive. He never had that. He preferred to live with his parents, abstained from smoking and drinking, and never got married. Wow. People that live a life like that, secluded life like that, sometimes turn out to being batshit crazy. What he turned out being. And he was traumatized to no fault of his own by the men in black with the coffin, and then the deceased girl's crazy ass mother bonding them in marriage, which is sick. Anatole was self-dubbed a necropolis. He spoke 13 languages, as I said, and he traveled extensively across Russia and, of course, all over the place. He traveled. He was a traveler. He wrote frequently as a contributor at Necrologies, a weekly newspaper that published obituaries and stories about cemeteries and famous dead people. Oh god. This guy was obsessed with death. Some people would call that, growing up when I was in high school, emo, but I think this is beyond emo. I think this dude is mentally destroyed. He needs help. But see, when you're traumatized, he never got the therapy, and my thing is, I blame his parents, because they should have known something was off with this guy. He was highly revered, so I will say this, Anatoly was a very intelligent person, very well respected in his community. He was a professor, he was educated. So, he kept a personal library of over 60,000 books and documents on rituals and, as I stated, occultism, and was described as a genius by a colleague who found his work on doll collecting intriguing. So, he liked collecting dolls. He liked collecting these Russian dolls called a matryoshka. Those are the little dolls, or the little Katrina dolls that you see. They come in big, very tiny, small, giant. Yes, he collected those. If you ever had a question on necromancy, I wouldn't ask him. Anatoly was the answer. He was the ultimate expert on cemeteries and the dead. He had an obsession, and he even earned a degree in Celtic studies, a culture that studied blurred lines between life and death. His obsession with the macabre exacerbated. Anatoly became deeply interested in the Druid practices and discovered that Druids slept on graves of their dead to communicate with them. And I know there's some cultures people do that. I think in some Asian countries, some people would dig up their dead ones, their loved ones. It was celebrate with them. I've seen all kinds of shit. I know in Puerto Rico, when you die, I've seen people how they embalm you where you look like you're actually alive. I think someone was embalmed and put on a motorcycle. Somebody was embalmed sitting in the house with his blunt and his glasses. This dude looked like he was alive, but he was dead. I've seen people get buried in the weirdest ways possible. Here's the thing with me, and I explained this to my family. When I'm dead, just cremate me afterwards. Don't do no crazy shit with my body. Don't put it on display. Don't put me in no Barbie box. Don't do anything fucking ridiculous. Just cremate me and go spread my ashes in the water. I like water. Go do that. I don't know. Personally, me, I've always was afraid of death. The sight of a coffin made me sick. Seeing someone in a coffin, especially a loved one stretched out, made me fucking sick. And my mom and a lot of people told me it was a fear of mine, and it probably was a fear. It was a fear. And I can't do this. This shit's weird. It's too weird. From the time when he started sleeping on graves, Anatoly actually enjoyed that habit. He liked it. He would even sleep on the graves of children. And it continued for another 20 years. He claimed that disturbing practice aided him in the gathering of information to determine if the dead were spirits or demons. An expert that later proved they were in fact spirits. Of course these graves weren't always comfortable. Of course, no shit, it was cold stone. I've heard of people having sex in graveyards, and I think that's sick. I think that's, for you to desecrate somebody's resting place, you're sick. According to Moskvin, the spirits only appeared in warm weather, and you can't really sleep on a cold grave anyway, so he figured a clever way to dry them slowly. Hence his extensive travel across Russia where he learned mummification methods. Oh god, here we go, mummifying these dead people. He mummified all kinds of people. Young women, little girls. He always believed he could do some kind of black magic spell or some kind of power to bring these people back to life. This guy was deranged. He said he always wanted a daughter, but he could not pass on his morbid knowledge and had to reportedly apply for adoption. But he was denied, and rightfully so. He ought to die. He probably would have killed that kid only to mummify it because he's a sick bastard. Very sick. And this guy would go around Russia roaming from cemetery to cemetery, looking for graves to dig up so he can bring home the bodies. He has been reported to have visited over 752 graves in the Nizhny Novgorod province alone from 2005 to 2007, where he would sleep on hay bales and drink rainwater. What? No, dude, rainwater? Are you... Oh, God. He once slept in a coffin ahead of a dead person's funeral, and as I told you that, he did that. He would take these corpses home, he'll dry the corpse, he'll clean them up, and then he would just mummify these dolls. He would speak to the dolls, sing to them, read to them, dress them up. I think he had one little girl, Russian girl, dressed to look like a teddy bear. They're pictures. I will show you these sick pictures of these dead people that he made into looking like a doll. And the sad thing was his goddamn parents knew it. He never had sex with these dolls. These were just his personal dolls. He loathed sex. He thought the idea of sex in itself was disgusting. I'm gonna say dude was a virgin. But his mother, Elvira Moskvina, who is now 86 years old, we saw these dolls, but we did not suspect they were dead bodies inside. We thought it was his hobby to make such big dolls. and didn't see anything wrong with it. The way these dolls don't look like dolls, these are ugly ass dolls. I wouldn't keep such shit in my house. The couple were regularly away from home and traveled to their country house every summer, leaving Moskvin alone at home, where he felt lonely, prompting him to acquire these dolls. His neighbors expressed their shock, stating that Anatoly was occasionally quiet and his parents were nice people. Not even the rancid smell that emanated from his apartment was enough to convince them. So, of course, it smelled like shit. But you're mummifying these dolls. You would think with that he was using something to prevent the rotten flesh smell, but maybe he didn't have any of that or have any formaldehyde. He was obsessed with death, so maybe he should have robbed a funeral home and stole some formaldehyde before he did all this mummification shit. But you know what? This is just gross. I will show you these pictures. I think one of his corpses still had a dried human heart in it. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and sentenced to he was court ordered to a psychiatric hospital after confessing to 44 counts of desecrating graves in May of 2012. At a new hearing in 2020, he was asked to be released from a psychiatric hospital for his elderly mom to care for him. But he refused to apologize to his parents of the dead girls whom he mummified. He said, "These girls are girls. They are no parents in my view. I don't know any of them." He didn't know any of these people at all. He thought these girls were abandoned in the cold and he wanted to bring them home to, I guess, show love or whatever. This is sick. Well, anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop talking about this very sick story. This is my third doll story I'm talking about for today. So, Baby Doll Soaps and Things signing off. Ciao!